Yo, what's up, comrades? Hope everyone's doing great. We're here to talk about a very short little arc. I call it the Scott and Madeline marriage arc or the Mastermind arc. We'll get to it in a second. First, we got like the little side adventure. A Marvel team up with Spider-Man and Kitty Pryde, and it has to do with the Murlocs. So we start off. Spider-Man's just doing Spider-Man shit throughout town. He's fighting some goon on like a train or whatever. Actually, a couple goons, and he beats him up real good. And then he's on like the train, like the subway train, crashes a little bit, and he ends up being knocked down. And then some guys grab him up and drag him off, and it's the Morlocks. Oh no! Meanwhile, out in Westchester County, we have Kitty Pryde is babysitting because Professor X wants her to do some like normal teenage shit, and she's not too pleased about it. She's on the phone with Aurora, who's not in her punk rock form, so I don't know when this is supposed to take place. Having like a gay old time talking about how she dislikes it so much. She's babysitting these twins. They're fighting. She drags them to a room, locks them up tight, and puts them to sleep. And then she like crashes on the couch downstairs. Meanwhile, the children, they like escape out of there. They find this pit, and then one of the boys like falls down the pit. So he goes and gets Kitty, and then Kitty takes him down, and they get attacked by like Morlocks, and then the boy gets grabbed up. They're then on some sort of like futuristic like rail car system. Like it's bizarre. And then Kitty, so they take the kid, and then Kitty hops on the other train, and then they go off to this group of like the Morlocks, and they're nothing like the regular Morlocks. This is like absolutely nothing to do with like the Morlocks we know and love from like the regular X-Men. The kids get thrown into a prison with Spider-Man, who's being held on by like some sort of futuristic electromagnetic like thing. So one of the boys comes up with the idea to throw water on it, which breaks Spider-Man free. Hooray! And he like kicks the door open and almost kills Kitty Pryde, but she can phase through stuff. So then a battle ensues with Spider-Man, Kitty, and the Morlocks, and they fight. And then the whole the whole underground starts to cave in, and they escape out of there. And that wraps up that bullshit. So next, then we hit up Uncanny X-Men 174 to 175, and this is like the real meat and potatoes of this storyline. We begin with Cyclops and Madeline. They're on the Starjammer looking at space, and she's crying because it's so beautiful, and they're making out and stuff. And then Corsair and his lady friend, the cat lady, are like talking about stuff too. And then Corsair takes Madeline off. We get to see Carol Danvers as Binary, and she has like a nice talk with Scott about how she's not super mad at the X-Men or anything. And Professor X is doing what he believes is the right thing, but Binary was born in the stars, and she belongs in the stars. And then Corsair talks about how they're going to take off soon, and Scott needs to decide if he's going to head out or not. And then he says, I don't know, and Madeline looks very sad about the whole situation. Back at the X-Mansion, Xavier's continuing to try to build his super muscular legs so they actually work, because he's got like his psychosomatic pain or blockage or whatever, because it's like his physical body can walk, but his brain is like so strong, and he's convinced himself in his like subconscious mind, it's some bullshit. So, like, that he can't walk. Then Lilandra is like, I gotta go back and fight the Civil War with Deathbird and whatnot, and I want you to come with me. And Professor's like, I can't go because I got the X-Men into mutants, and so they kiss. Then back on the Starjammer, Cyclops is still having a lot of problems with like Madeline looking like Jean Grey and getting over his ex-love, and him and Madeline like make out with the moon in the background. It's super adorbs. Over in Japan, Wolverine showed up. He's fight, and then he gets to Mariko, and there's Silver Samurai with him, Hashida, or what is it, Kenny Uchi o Hagarada, the Silver Samurai, and Wolverine's there to return the ceremonial sword that is of the house that Mariko gave him, because she doesn't want anything to do with him anymore. Back over at the manor, Kitty's reading like Star Wars comics, because Star Wars comics were made by Marvel, so why the fuck not like have a little advertisement in here, essentially. She screws around with Lockheed for a little bit, then she goes and finds Colossus, and she tricks him into like letting her kiss him, and then she practices this new ability where she can make other people like float as long as they're holding her or like they're engaged together. Anyway, they go up to Storm's room to like water the plants, but instead they just start making out until Storm shows up and is like, children, and they're like, oh, my bad. And then Kitty's like, we're here to water your plants? There's no plants here. And Storm's like, I got rid of them. I'm no longer the same person I was before. Elsewhere in the mansion, Nightcrawler is being the medic for Rogue. Remember, she got blasted pretty hard during Wolverine's wedding arc. And so they're chit-chatting a little bit, and he's taking her, and then Nightcrawler's thinking about Madeline Pryor and Phoenix and all that crazy stuff. And then he finds like a cute little doll and a present from his girlfriend, Amanda Sefton. And he's like, "Aw, she still loves me. They're the best. They're the best couple in the X-Men." hands down at this point. Later, we see Cyclops and Madeline like flying. She's doing her normal, like, she's just a pilot, so not just a pilot, she's a pilot, so she's doing her flying shit. And we see that he proposed, and she's got an engagement ring, and she's crying, so happy, and he's happy, and they're gonna get married, and everything's gonna be great. And then Cyclops heads back to like check on the passengers, and there's a priest who's like, "Oh, you dropped something," and it's a picture of Jean Grey when she was in like Greece, being kind of like a free spirit or whatnot back in the day. And he's like, I've never seen this picture before. And of course, the priest is Wynegard, and he was there with Jean, so that's why he's got a picture of it. And so Cyclops gets a little funny. But Madeline, they have a date later that night. So Madeline like gets home after the flight. She's like getting stuff ready for dinner, and Wynegard's there. Oh no. And then she shows up. Scott's hanging out. She has wine, and then Scott has like, he has all these turmoils. So he's like, "Are you really the Phoenix?" And then she slaps the shit out of him, and then he's like, "Fuck, I lost my glasses." So he puts on like his temporary goggles or whatever, and looks up, and it's dun dun dun, the Phoenix. Oh no, fuck. And so then that takes us to issue number 175, where, let's see what's going on here. Okay, so we start off with everybody else that is in the X-Men. So Kitty, Colossus, Nightcrawler, Wolverine, and Aurora. They're all standing around hanging out. And then Phoenix attacks, and Rogue's there too. And Cyclops gets dumped on him. And so they have like a conversation. They run to see Professor X. He tries to log into Cerebro, but it blasts his mind. And then they do some investigation and find out that someone messed with the electronics. And then they're trying to figure out what's going on and about Phoenix and all this stuff. And then Phoenix like comes out of Cyclops or whatever. And then they start fighting, and they all get like the shit kicked out of them. Pretty hardcore. But then Phoenix leaves and says she'll come back, and so then they try to contact the Starjammers. It looks like their ship gets destroyed. They try to contact the Avengers in New York, and it looks like New York gets destroyed, and everything they're looking at is like all fucked up and whatnot. And then Cyclops is like, he has like a astral experience where he goes out of his body, and he's like sees his mom, and he's thinking about stuff and whatnot. And then he wakes back up, and he's just like he's in the infirmary by himself, and he goes to find the X-Men, and then they attack him because they see him as the Phoenix. And at this point, he's figured out that it's Mastermind, that it's Jason Wynegard that's like doing all this shit, and so he knows he's got to like help the X-Men realize what's going on. So we get some fun like Cyclops fighting all the X-Men. We had an issue like this way back in the day. So he's using the danger room, and he's moving around, and he's using trickery and whatnot. And then we switch over to Madeline, and she's wearing the Dark Phoenix outfit, and she's like very confused because she looks like she's in hell. There's like fire and like a fiery throne, and then Wynegard's there, and he's talking about fucking her and how he's tricking the X-Men and how he wants revenge against Jean Grey, but she's dead, so he can't do it. So he just wants to get revenge on Cyclops' girlfriend, and it just happens to look like Jean Grey, and he's super excited about that. And then she tricks him into thinking he's Cyclops so that she kisses him, and then he's like, "Aha, I'm an ugly fucking dude," and then he transforms into like his handsome self that he used to trick Dark Phoenix, and he's laughing about it. Back in the danger room, Cyclops has like initiated like a Savage Land protocol or whatever. So he's like running around there, hiding, doing sneaky stuff. He's blasting the X-Men. He's fighting them real good. At some point, let's see. He puts on a mask, a breathing mask for some reason. I don't remember why. Anyway, so he keeps fighting everybody, and then he uses some sort of like what is it called? Wizard of Oz, like flower gas on Rogue. To get her knocked out, and then he takes Rogue, wakes her up, puts her hand on Professor X so she gets his like telepathic powers so that she can help him by like connecting everybody telepathically. And then the rest of the X-Men show back up. They see Xavier and Rogue there, and then it looks like Cyclops is Phoenix, but then Rogue kind of wakes up enough to like telepathically link with everybody so that she can reveal what's going on. And then Cyclops gets like blasted, but it doesn't do anything except that the Wynegard's using like a gun, like an actual gun. And then Storm is like, okay, Mastermind's here, I believe that, we got to figure this out. So she creates like this crazy storm in the room, and everyone's trying to hold on and not get flooded out or whatnot. And eventually she like calms it down before she kills anybody. But at some point Rogue's like, oh, in her head she would definitely have killed us all to end this. And so Wolverine goes over to like kill Wynegard. He's like, I'm enough of this motherfucker. What does he say? Oh yeah, I've had enough of this sucker. I hope you enjoyed playing with our heads, bub. You're never gonna get another chance. And then Aurora runs up and grabs his arm right before he like fucking kills him. And then he's like, the fuck you doing? You were gonna do the same fucking thing. Which is true. And Rogue's like, that is true. Anyway, so then Cyclops is, there's like, the whole place is like flooded and whatnot. So he sees Madeline, and she's like passed out, facing the water. And he's like, oh no, my girl. And so he flips her over and starts doing CPR. And then she wakes up, and then they like do some kissing. And then we get an epilogue of this arc. And it's later at a chapel at Bard College in upstate New York. So very far away from where I think Westchester's supposed to be. I guess it is upstate. Anyway. So he's at Jean Grey's funeral or grave, and he's like he's wearing like a white tux, so obviously he's going to get married to Madeline here. And he's just talking about all this stuff and how he needs to move on and how Madeline makes him happy and whatnot. So then he goes inside and we get like a lot of nice shots. We see like Beast. We see Carol Danvers is here. We see Scott's and Alex is there with. I guess Lorna is not here for some reason. Anyway, I'm sure she's around. Anyway, so his dad's there. All the Starjammer aliens are watching from like a screen because they're aliens. And then Scott's grandparents are there. And then Madeline gets brought up by some guy. I'm assuming her dad. And then we see all the couples. We see Nightcrawler and or Kurt and Amanda. We see Charles and Lalandra. Sean Cassidy's there with Moira. We see Kitty giving like the eye to Colossus because she's like the maid of honor, so she's up at the front. And then we see Wolverine looking very sad-opotamus. And Carol's next to him, also kind of like worried about him or whatnot. And then Scott and Madeline kiss, and that's the end of the arc. Until next time. So go ahead, like, share, subscribe, comment, and I will catch you guys later. Bye.